and ambassadors of peace, brothers in Christ. God is making his appeal through us. We speak for Christ when we plead, come back to God. To represent someone means to represent them. In other words, if you represent someone, it is as if you are making them present again. Make sense? No? Maybe? Okay. Let's try to illustrate it this way. Let's say there's a king who came to a land and did many good things for people. Let's say this king supplied daily bread, extended mercy, showed us how grace works and applies to those in trouble, and gave himself on behalf of those in his kingdom. Then let's say the king asked you to become his representative to those people. In effect, he was calling you to be his ambassador. He entrusts you with his authority and words. When you would speak, the words you spoke would represent the king's words. When you would act, the patterns of your life would enact the king's grace and justice. As the king's representative, it would be as if the king was right there, living through you, by you, with you, and so it is with us as we live our lives for Christ as his representatives. God, let me speak as you would speak, act as you would act, and represent you to everyone I come in contact with today. Things do not change their ownership when captured by pirates and robbers. Expect from others the same treatment that they receive from you. No injury is done by things long acquiesced to in. We must call him absent who is not in the place in which he is sought. To accept anything as a reward for doing justice is not accepting but extorting. An action is not given to him who is not injured. An act done without my consent is not my act. And an act criminal itself does not make one guilty unless done with guilty intent. In order rightly to comprehend a thing, inquire first into the names, for a right knowledge of things depends upon their names. Equity remedies error. Equity is a kind of perfect reason which interprets and amends the written law, comprehended in no code, but consists with reason and sound doctrines and principles alone. Equity assists ignorance, but not carelessness. Equity assists no person to the injury of another. Equity never contradicts the law. Equity does not regard the form and circumstances, but rather the substance of the act. A small debt makes a debtor, a large one an enemy. It is one thing to possess, another to be in possession. An ambiguous pleading should be interpreted against the party offering it. An agreement from a like case avails in law. An agreement deduced from an impossibility is of great weight in law. The law permits the taking arms against the armed. An assignee acquires the rights of the assignor. Cease to reign if you do not wish to adjudicate. Consent constitutes law. Consent takes away error. The agreement of the parties makes the law of the contract. An incorporated body has no heirs, nor executors, nor can it die. A creditor who permits property to be sold gives up the pledge. That which, when given through mistake, can be recovered back, when given with knowledge of the facts, becomes a gift. It is a fault of the meddle with what it is a fault to meddle with what does not belong to you. Time runs against the slothful and those who neglect their rights. There may be damage without injury. He who gives and retains testamentary trust gives nothing. Of things which do not appear and things which do not exist, the rule of legal proceedings is the same. Laws assist the deceived, not the deceiving. Courts or judges' discretion is to know through law what is just. A deceiver deals in generalities. Deceit and fraud should always be remedied. Expert witness. An expert witness has special skills or knowledge in a certain area, such as banking. The expert assists legal counsel in determining the court strategy. The expert knows the strengths and weaknesses of both the plaintiff and the defendant. Most people think it is the primary responsibility of the expert to testify. It is not. In Chicago, I testified nearly 10 years. My primary job was to give courtroom strategy and show legal counsel how to crush their opponents. I was known for showing legal counsel what questions to ask their opponent that would destroy them no matter how they answered. You want the expert for the other side to agree that you are correct. The banker's strategy is to make sure you are bankrupt or lose your house so that you will have no money to sue them with. I believe their goal is to make sure most people do not have enough money to hire an attorney or an expert witness. Experts do not take a percentage of the win. You pay them huge fees before they will walk into court. My strategy is to train you just like I would train a CPA to be an expert witness. I have trained about 2,000 CPAs nationally. Part of the course gave the CPA's expert witness training, so I am qualified to train you and your legal counsel. The first thing you must do is obtain all the literature from the opponent. In this case, it is the Federal Reserve Bank publications. I have already done this, studied them, and given you the information you need. The next thing is to understand the information. I have carefully explained it in this book, having had years of experience in banking and knowing how to train you to exploit the bank's weaknesses and minimize your own. I will then show you how to use CPA expert witness arguments to ask the questions that give the banker's witnesses the sweats. The beauty of filing a lawsuit is, if the case goes to a jury trial and if the bank defends it by bringing in a CPA expert witness, the expert must know everything and cannot say he does not know or understand. My goal is to train you to take on their expert witnesses discussing the agreement and exposing the truth. If you can get the bank's expert witness to agree with that you are right, you may not need to hire an expert. If you hire an expert witness, the bank will have a strategy. You pay thousands of dollars to hire and schedule an expert for trial. The bank delays the trial. You still have to pay the expert. The bank delays trial several times until you are out of money and can no longer hire the expert. If you are trained like an expert, you know how to question the bank's expert and turn him into your advantage. The banks will not know whether you have read this book or my second book with many more questions. This book does not have all of the court strategy that you need, but it shows you the basic fundamentals of banking. My goal is to teach you some of these fundamentals and expert witness procedures. You may wonder why I repeat myself so often in this book. It is to give you firsthand experience of the kind of repetitiveness a jury needs to hear. The more they hear something, the more believable it becomes. The more evidence and the more witnesses repeating the same information drums the point into people's heads. My goal is to win Americans to the truth. It is possible you may not have any choice but to defend yourself in court. If that is the case, I want you to tackle their expert and win the argument. People have taken the information in this book and charged others thousands of dollars for it. You are getting it for the cost of the book. I have been the leader in increasing the subject. The others are following me. Always remember, the courtroom strategy constantly change. Many of the people following me are using old strategies that may not help you. I am concerned that people will claim they know me, that they talk to me often, and that I will be their expert witness if I am needed. When in fact, I have never heard of the group or individuals and may not actually endorse the group. Please be wary of people using my strategies or claiming they know me. to entice you to give them a fee. Every 3 months, my leaders have a new letter from me. This letter will enable you to know who my leaders are. I suggest you work with the genuine leaders who have my latest information and not the others who are only reading the book and do not have my most current strategies. Once you have the CPA expert witness training, you can argue with political parties and neighbors or conduct seminars. This book and volume 2, plus all my cassette tapes for leaders and distributors, will teach you the CPA expert witness type of training that will give a banker or his expert witness nightmares. I encourage you to contact me and become a distributor or leader so that you will have the latest strategies. Once you understand banking like an expert witness, you may decide it is easier to spend your time doubling your money every 6 months instead of fighting in court. If you and your friends could quickly obtain tens of millions of dollars, the money could be used as a political solution to regain our rights, freedoms, liberties, and constitution. Wealth in a country that is not free is not real wealth. False witnesses, forms, and substance when we return.